In the small town of Shepherdsville, Kentucky, a sinister event unfolded that would forever alter the community's fabric. Jessica Dishon, a 17-year-old high school student, vanished without a trace in September 1999, igniting a lengthy investigation and 15-year cold case that seemed more out of the realm of Hollywood than real life. It's a story of mystery, despair, and a desperate search for truth amid a landscape of deceit. This is the story and disappearance of Jessica Dishon. Jessica was by all accounts the embodiment of the 1990s all-American teenager, bright, ambitious, and along with her dreams of becoming a nurse, she was deeply woven into the fabric of her close-knit family of parents and 2 younger siblings. She even worked around the clock in between school and saved up enough money to buy the exact car she had wanted, a bright red 1998 Pontiac. Without a doubt, this young lady's life appeared to be well on the way to achieve great things. However, that all changed when on a crisp September morning, something extremely strange happened. Jessica's mother, Edna, found her daughter's car abandoned in the driveway on a day when she should have been at school. After failing to find her in the family home, she returned to her car and found her purse, her cell phone with the numbers 9 and 1 already dialed, and a single shoe left behind on the floor. Quite obviously, Edna was quickly alarmed and immediately informed the authorities of what appeared to be a sudden, violent struggle that resulted in her daughter seemingly vanishing into thin air. The initial response was a whirlwind of activity, though to no success or any deep concern on the part of law enforcement. Local police, initially skeptical, treated Jessica's disappearance as a potential runaway case and did little within the initial days to even investigate what had happened. However, the community rallied, spurred by the Dishon family's insistence that Jessica had been abducted. Flyers wallpapered the town, and a substantial reward was posted. Eventually, days had turned into agonizing weeks with no word from Jessica. With nowhere else to turn, the family found unlikely assistance from the FBI and their assigned agent, Detective Lynn Hunt, who would lead the investigation until further evidence could be collected. Almost immediately, 17 days after her disappearance, the case took a grim turn. A bus driver, following her usual route, spotted something horrific. A badly decomposing body of a young female had been discarded in the dense underbrush of the Salt River bottoms, just minutes from where Jessica lived. Though identification was initially challenging, her mother would be soon called in to assist. At first, there was no telling who it could be, until Edna found a remarkably similar butterfly tattoo on the body, in the exact place her daughter had one. Their worst fears were confirmed. It was Jessica. The discovery site suggested she had been moved post-mortem, positioned against a backdrop that spoke volumes of the violence she had endured. In fact, by the time the initial investigation had concluded, physical evidence revealed that Jessica was still alive, up to 3 days after her abduction. This information itself causing a hellish backlash against local police. Had their initial reaction been immediate, Jessica could have been saved. The initial suspect in the wake of the discovery was David "Bucky" Brooks, a neighbor with a spotty past and dubious alibi. Amidst his seemingly odd behavior, when initially suspected by police, he was later detained and intensely questioned. Accusations flew, and Brooks faced trial amidst a storm of media frenzy and community outrage. However, the case against him gradually crumbled under the weight of procedural errors and a lack of physical evidence. Eventually, the prosecution disintegrated entirely, as a later IQ test revealed his behavior was likely due to his extraordinarily low score of 61, meaning he likely didn't understand the nature of the questions being asked of him, let alone having the capability of committing murder and successfully eluding police investigation. These revelations would later lead to a mistrial and Brooks' subsequent release. The failed prosecution left a bitter taste and many unanswered questions, casting a shadow over the local law enforcement's capabilities. With no further leads, Jessica's body was buried, and the case was shelved. The years turned into a decade, the events still lingering in the background as a painful and unresolved scar. In 2015, there would be a breakthrough that was as unexpected as it was dramatic. A fellow inmate of Jessica's uncle, Stanley Dishon, her father's brother, contacted Detective Hunt, and in spite of the initial hesitation, insisted he had information about a chilling confession Stanley had allegedly made while behind bars. As both men were guilty of crimes of child abuse, they shared their heinous exploits with one another, and in the privacy of their cell, Stanley allegedly admitted to abusing his niece for years, threatening her to remain silent. Then, after discovering she had recently gotten a boyfriend, feared that she would confide in him the crimes her uncle had committed against her. This led Stanley to, on the day of Jessica's disappearance, when he knew she'd be home alone, abduct her, tying her up with rope and a bedsheet stolen out of her room, dragging her to an abandoned shack near the river bottoms, where he'd kept her alive for days afterward. It was in this shack where Stanley would subject Jessica to torture, including severe blunt trauma and relentless abuse, before he'd finally lost his patience and, having had his way, strangled her and posthumously cut up her limbs, where he'd dispose of her mangled body into the river bottom. Stanley also would later assist in the search party for Jessica in the days after her disappearance, at one point feigning illness when he noticed he and his brother, Jessica's father, were near the area of where he was keeping her prior to her murder. In 2015, Stanley Dishon, already serving time for unrelated offenses, was now accused of a crime so heinous that it seemed almost unthinkable. Under the weight of new evidence and renewed investigative vigor, Dishon was brought to trial. In a stunning courtroom moment, he entered an offered plea, acknowledging that while he maintained his innocence, the evidence against him would likely lead to a conviction. This plea deal brought a mix of relief and unresolved tension to all involved, particularly Jessica's family, who had waited so long for justice. The conclusion of Stanley Dishon's trial did not bring the closure many had hoped for. Questions lingered about the motives and the exact details of the crime. The community and Jessica's family were left to ponder the broader implications of their ordeal. How secrets within a family and failures within the justice system could converge to create such a tragedy. Jessica's case became a touchstone for discussions about legal reform and the importance of diligence in pursuing justice, no matter how cold the trail might seem. If you enjoyed this video, kindly leave a like and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.